Since returning to office 2 weeks ago, President Trump has been jam-packing his schedule with endless executive orders, signing a couple more today. And then there's the daily briefings and those marathon question and answer sessions with the press. Earlier, the president was up with the sun, delivering remarks at 2 events for the National Prayer Breakfast.
My all-time favorite chart in history, a chart on immigration. Immigration saved my life. You're going to say Merry Christmas. Well, now they do it again. But I don't know if you've been watching, but we got rid of woke over the last 2 weeks. Woke is gonzo. The first 2 weeks have been probably, they say, the most successful 2 weeks in the history of any presidency. Now all we have to do is keep it going for another couple of 100 weeks.
And the pace of Trump's speedy schedule even has a legacy media struggling to keep up. As Political Playbook notes, this guy has energy. Joe Biden, he is not. And the establishment media is in anguish over Trump's sledgehammer approach, with one outlet saying how they, quote, simply can't cover everything. But more than the media, Greg, it's the Democrats, right? They can't get a foothold.
No.
And just as soon as they think, okay, now we can find something we can oppose, the president's on to the third thing.
Yes, they're playing checkers and he's playing twister. I calculated the amount of work this administration needs to do and the pace at which they're doing it. And my calculations conclude that the Trump administration will be completed June 15th, 2025 at 3:45 p.m. That's 12:45 Pacific.
Okay.
But, you mentioned this. It's not just what Trump is doing. It's what he's inspiring others to do. He's actually leading. DEI is now being dropped by Google. Facebook ditched its disinformation propaganda. Student athletes are suing to get their trophies back from men disguised as women who participated in their sport. The pronoun hysteria evaporated. Comedy is coming back. Patriotism is returning. Enlistments are up. People are simply, like you said, no longer scared to speak their mind to lunacy. Preference falsification is dead, except at the DNC. And it goes back to what I've always said. You share the risk, the bullies flee. Turns out Trump is winning because the bullies never really had an argument. All they had was intimidation. Trump was the tip of the iceberg, the captain of the pirate ship who made it easier for even the shyest among us to climb aboard.
And the contrast is striking because if you think about, I think if you added up all the questions Joe Biden took in his entire presidency, it probably would fall short of what's been done in the last 16 days.
Well, that's the frustration the Democrats feel because they're seeing Trump use power and Biden could have used the power. See, Biden just wanted to win the presidency because he'd tried his whole life. And then when he became president, he just took a nap on the beach while people couldn't get baby formula. There's a problem here because when he did use power, Dana, he used it for almost evil things. He tried to lock up his opponent. He fired people for not getting vaxxed. He bribed kids with master's degrees. This was an abuse of power. Trump's using power to help people, and that's the difference. And Greg's right. Trump has a vision for what he wants. He's ambitious. He has an agenda. Biden just came in and said, COVID got me in. We're just going to do this and see what happens. The media is struggling because they can't find a victim. Are people going to feel sorry for gangbanging illegals? Or Leah Thomas, who wants to go into the wrong locker room? Or a Department of Justice lawyer who will probably be able to find a job? That's the difference. This is the change that people voted for. So the media can't complain because this is democracy in action.
Harold, if everything is an outrage, then nothing is an outrage. Is that why you're laughing?
No, the judge, I was taking notes. You just crossed my notes out. No, I think you said if everything is an outrage, then
Nothing's an outrage.
Nothing is an outrage. Look, the Democrats are still drowning in the cultural issues. I think you're right, Greg, and I think you're right, Jesse.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
But ultimately, President Trump, and what Democrats have to understand, he's going to be judged on whether or not he's able to deliver on the issues that got him elected. Can he deal with the economy in a way and make it grow and introduce America and sustain us in this golden age that he talks about, which I think really is dominated by how well you're doing economically. Is it going to make our communities safer, our borders safer, our borders safe? That's ultimately what this election was about. And Democrats, we didn't have compelling convincing answers for the American people. And it seems like we're still fighting or litigating that. Now, as I tried to say in the first segment, you can't do it unless you have answers, which is why I think you have to get out in the country and listen to people, understand where their energy might be and even anger, and come back and talk about plans to do these things and how you'd like to work with the president. And remember, the Republicans are being blocked out a little bit too. Offer them opportunities to work with you. And I think that you might find them taking you up on some of those things. Finally, there's some things that the president's doing, two things he's done that I think are petty and mean-spirited. First, stop complaining about what happened in the past. You're rich. You're good looking. You live in the White House. You have a place at Mar-a-Lago. You got a place at Bedminster. You got a beautiful place here in New York. Real people voted for you who have real problems and real worries. Focus on that. And two, I don't like the firing of the person I got most offended by was the 4-star admiral, this woman who was in the Coast Guard, who the president had every right to fire. Then they kicked her out of her house. Leave that for the pettiness. Get back to doing the things that the country elected you to do. I don't agree with every executive order, but I kind of like the energy. I kind of like the impotence. And I kind of like the fact that it could produce enough momentum that the Congress and the Senate may act on some of this spending stuff and act on some of this bringing our government back into order stuff.
Isn't he complaining on behalf of us, though? I don't see him complaining.
He talks about himself. When he talks about himself, no, I don't think it's, if he's talking about how I can't afford a loaf of bread, how I'm worried about how I'm going to pay my kids' tuition, how I'm concerned about what tomorrow's going to bring, and that summer's going to bring, how I'm going to pay for camp. Those are issues I think the American people are more focused on.
Spoken like a possible candidate. Judge, let me give you the last word.
No administration has been more prepared for power than this administration. And the issue, Harold, with all due respect, is, what you say, whether or not he can follow through on his promises. I mean, already he's taken men out of women's sports, already brought up $500 billion from out of this country to tackle AI and super AI for cancer. Already he's making sure that the worst of the illegal criminals are being removed from this country. He's not slowing down. The man he's got incredible energy. And, you say the Democrats didn't have answers. They created the problems. The Democrats, it's not that they can't figure it out. They created it. They created the trans and the drag queen reading out, the drag reading hour, and they created the open border, and they got rid of bail, and they wouldn't talk about the economy, and at the end of the day here, you've got a president who was so startling compared to the other president that the press just can't keep up. And, thank God Columbia buckled, because we can still get enough coffee to make sure that the press can keep up with the guy. This guy is not going to stop. He's not going to stop. And those people who started by saying, if he gets elected, he'll be the oldest president in history, as if, he wasn't going to be able to even do the job. And I want to say one thing. He went to 2 prayer breakfasts this morning, and he talked about eradicating anti-Christian bias. And when the FBI director, Christopher Wray, came out and really told us no one at the FBI was targeting Christians, and Senator Hawley came out and they found that leaked memo that the FBI was investigating Catholics, and priests were gone to so that they could then inform on parishioners who were considered domestic terrorists. I mean, that's over. That is not going to happen again. Thank God for that. And if people got to get fired, so be it. But this country was going to hell in a handbasket, having nothing to do with the Catholics.
Well,
Yeah,
Harold.
they're going to get along real well in the commercial break, don't
Remember
worry.
when he criticized that bishop, too.
All right, hey,
Yeah,
coming up,
it wasn't
Democrats
real.
are looking to win elections again by throwing Kamala Harris under the bus.